All right, so it's now 8 o'clock. Hopefully, everyone can hear me. So, welcome to this quick live stream. Um, yeah, today I'm just going to go over any questions that anyone might have about UT. I know, especially because of the coronavirus, that there's been a lot of uncertainty about what's going on and whether you can visit campus or not, and like just like a lot of information that you usually be able to get, but now it's just hard to do so. So yeah, more than happy to answer questions today. So we have a few questions asked so far. Whoops. First thing is, what are the main differences between Andrews, Blanton, and Carruthers? So if you don't know, those are the three honors dorms at UT that are reserved for honors students. So the main difference between the three is that Blanton was built later than Andrews and Carruthers. Andrews and Carruthers are about the same. They're a little different. I think Andrews is the oldest, followed by then Carruthers, and then Blanton was built like 20, 30 years later after those two dorms were built. Um, so that shouldn't deceive you though, because Carruthers and Andrews have sinks in their bathroom, while Blanton's a little newer, and they have tile floors and whatnot, but they don't have any sinks their in their rooms. Sorry. So what I meant to say is there are sinks in the rooms in Andrews and Crothers, except for the basement of Andrews, and then all of Crothers all of Blanton, those don't have sinks. So Crothers, most of Andrews, they have sinks. Blanton and the basement of Andrews do not have sinks in their rooms. So you have to use the community bath if you wanted to, what do you call it? So if you wanted to, what do you call it? So let's say you wanted to use the restroom and then like wash your hands, and you'd have to use the sinks in the community bath. So there are actually a few rooms, if I remember correctly, that have their own bathrooms in Andrews. They are on the first floor. If you look at the floor plan there, you'll see like which ones have it. So if you want that, you can try looking for it. So yeah, other than that though, whoops, I don't want to turn on sticky keys. So other than that though, there's not really that much of a difference, I guess, between the two. They're just different. Um, they're just different dorms. So yeah, other than Blanton not having sinks, there's not really much of a difference between them. They're kind of old dorms, but they're kind of classy old. So I don't think it's really that big of a difference. People who have lived in Blanton though say they hated it, especially because a lot of their friends were in Jester. So if you're planning on living with your friends but they don't live in the quad because they can't, I just recommend just going with Jester. Honestly, don't isolate yourself. You know, we're already doing so much social distancing right now. It's not a good idea. Uh, is it legal to sign homework over spring break? Depends on the university. The mechanical engineering department apparently doesn't allow it, but the CS department does. So I guess it just depends on each department. But are there any other admissions related questions that anyone has? Well, if no one has any questions, I'll just keep, I guess, talking just in general about UT. So UT is in a good city. It's in Austin, and there's a lot of stuff to do for young people in Austin. So, for instance, if you're, oh, I know why this display is really funky. It's because I have Flux on, I think. So the reason why, yeah, there we go. So Austin's is a good city for just like young people in general because there's a lot of nightlife to do, especially during the weekends. And there's just a lot of quirky things that kind of make Austin unique. It's not really like other Texas cities. It's more like Portland light. So if that's what you're into, then I definitely recommend it. Um, but yeah, I think a lot of people have questions about like orientation. So orientation is going to be about 3 days, 2 nights. The first day is probably going to be the roughest, and then after that, it gets better. But yeah, the first day is like just a lot of activities and like just a lot of meetings and stuff to go to. I think you guys used to take the orientation tests on the first day, but now I think they moved it online. So the first day is pretty packed, but yeah, you'll be really tired at the end of the first day, but after that, it'll be pretty fine. Second day is academic advising. Third day is registration. Um, Other than that, there's not much to do except for like the nighttime activities and whatever. But if you so dare to choose to do so, they don't allow you to go outside of campus to go to Austin. But if you want to do that, there really isn't much that is stopping you. So if you want to do that, I would highly recommend doing so because it's just a lot of fun. Um, and so all you have to do is just pretend you're not a UT student, and then you can leave campus. Um, Now, as far as choosing your rooms between Blanton, Andrews, and Carruthers, you can choose your room, and so as long as you choose quickly, you can choose Andrews and Carruthers. Since UT allows you to choose your room now for a room selection. Um, that'll be done on your housing portal, which I believe you guys have already used to pay your housing deposit. So yeah, that'll be pretty cool. So yeah, I can talk about choosing between the quad and Jester. Um, but yeah, Mike here is about to graduate, so he's pretty he's a student and he's pretty well familiarized with UT as well. And so he thinks he should live at Jester. Uh, he thinks you should live at Jester if you can. Oh, good. Congratulations on CSB. So, Jester probably doesn't have a very tight community feel, but at least if you have friends there and you're tight with them, then live with them. Sometimes living with friends doesn't work out, sometimes living with friends does work out, but it works out more often than not than if you were to live with a complete stranger. Other than that, though, if you're like into just making friends with your honors programs friends, so it's just those in CSB, I'd recommend living in the quad for sure. Um, Chester is much closer to McCombs than is the honors quad, but still, BHP students live there, and they get along just fine. They're doing well, so yeah, I recommend it if you can at all. Personally, I feel like because I was in BHP Turing, right, and that's basically CSB before it became CSB. Um, I think honestly, yeah, honestly, it's probably better to live with a quad unless you have friends who you really want to live with. In my case, I just happen to have friends who were in honors programs, so it just worked out really well that I roomed with them and stuff like that, and that was really nice. But I think the more important part of living in the honor squad was just like being close to all the people in my classes. We could just easily meet up and work together, and that was really nice. So I really recommend living in the honor squad if at all possible. If you want to live comfortably, then definitely live in Crothers um, or Andrews. Yeah. Now, in terms of like which rooms you can select, I believe the second floor of Crothers, and the second floor of Andrews, and the fourth floor of Andrews are all available and open to females. So yeah, you can live there if you want to. Let's see. Okay, let me take a look at the. Yeah, if you have any questions about CSB, by the way, I'm more than happy to answer those. Just so happen to be able to answer a lot of those questions because I'm in those programs. Um, yeah, let me go over like some other general things that you guys maybe want to go over. Um, so let's see, student life, on-campus living. Um, is UT closed indefinitely? It's not really closed. It's we're just moving to online instruction, which doesn't matter for you because you only have an online class anyway. So I don't even know why you're concerned about that. But as far as I know, only essential operations are currently being held. So yeah. Oh shoot, I forgot to go over that lane. Come on. Way through. Okay, yeah. Alright, troll. Do honor students get priority in terms of classes registration? No, unfortunately not. So that is the case at most universities, but not at UT. The best way to get fastest registration is going to be by maxing out your degree completion requirements. So if you go to your interactive degree audit, which you can look up online, UT Austin Interactive Degree Audit. If you run a degree audit for the degree you intend to go into, then you'll see that like the percentage of completion for your degree is what's going to dictate how early you have to register. UT has a 2 week registration period, um, and it's because we have a big school and people are segmented into different times to register, even as going as far as like having specific times of the day to register rather than just like, oh, you have day 1, day 2, day 3, etc. So so yeah, the best thing to do would be to claim AP credits that are relevant to your major. So if they advance your degree progress, then you should definitely claim them because that will get you a better degree, a better registration time. How did I pass my driving test? Bribery. Yeah. Oh, that's unfortunately similar to what I got. I think I missed 26 points, so got a 74. Yeah, pretty bad. But hey, passing is passing, and you can drive if you pass, so that's pretty good, right? Um, but anyway, I drive much better than this in real life. It's hard to drive with a mouse and a keyboard, so please, and while I'm talking with y'all. Does UT give out a lot of merit-based scholarships? No, because everyone at UT is already considered exceptional, so not really. I don't even know if UT gives out any merit-based scholarships. It's like, it's so rare. It definitely isn't based on like your academics. No, unless you get like a 4.0 every semester, then you're probably in the running for some merit-based like academic scholarships. But it's really hard to get a 4.0 at UT, so good luck with that. You're better off getting financial aid grants rather than scholarships. UT is not known to give scholarships at all, um, unless you are like an alum. So the valedictorian scholarship is a scholarship, I guess, but it's more of a tuition waiver for your first year, and it's offered by the TEA. So it's not really a scholarship; it's more of a waiver. It's not offered by UT either. It's offered by the Texas Education Agency for in-state valedictorians. Yeah, not really the best in my opinion. But it's nice if you're Val, you know, get free tuition for a year, so that's nice. You still have to pay for housing though. But yeah, in general, UT doesn't really offer too many scholarships, so I just recommend uh, trying to stick with, you know, other sources of funding. Personally, I found myself with either my parents' money or my internship money. Now, if the economy tanks as it is right now, and if my parents can't fund my college education, I'm just going to use my internship money to pay for remaining tuition, and that should be enough. But yeah. If you're a CS major, or if you're trying to go into a technical field and you're able to score an internship in freshman year, that's going to really help you be able to fund your education. So I really recommend, if you're able to do that, then definitely do so, because UT is not known to be a generous school up until this Texas Advanced Commitment, and the Advanced Commitment does not really apply to people who are from high earning families. So definitely wouldn't recommend rely on UT for scholarships unless you have like a low EFC, or if you're like Pell Grant eligible, in which case you can probably like try to become like a Dell Scholar or something like that, or just like kind of use the benefits of, I think, Dell Scholars that they're granting now to all UT incoming students. So yeah, UT is becoming more and more accessible to top performing students who have low EFCs. But to those who have high EFCs, you're still really expected to pay out of pocket. And the only way you can kind of get around that by funding yourself is by getting internships that pay a lot. So for instance, like if you're in the software engineering field, you can get upwards of 40, 50 an hour for intern work. And so I recommend that. Let's say if you're a business student, you can get like internships that pay like 20, 30, maybe 40 if you're lucky an hour. So yeah, that is enough to pay for a year's worth of in-state tuition, even after tax. So yeah, I highly recommend using that if you need to. If you have any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. If anyone has any game suggestions, I'm open, because I don't really know what to play other than this game when answering Q&A, and it's already hard enough for me to drive here just because I'm trying to think about how to answer your questions. So yeah, but I can talk about like my tips for getting a good schedule if you guys want. So UT, the first semester that you register for is going to be at orientation. It's best to get the summer slots for orientation, because they don't really reserve a lot of the freshman only classes in August orientation, so they only reserve enough slots for summer orientation. Once you get to August orientation, you're kind of just left with the luck of the draw. If you have to, if you must do like summer orientation, I'm sorry, if you must if you must do August orientation, just note that you're going to be left with like the classes that nobody wants. Because in college you get to choose your own classes that you register for, like the sections that you register for, and of course the classes you register for. So depending on what orientation you go to, that could matter. Between like the regular summer orientations though, it doesn't really matter. when you register, unless you're registering for like a upper division class that isn't usually set aside. Sorry, usually not set aside for freshmen. So, for instance, if you're trying to take like jazz appreciation, uh, you should probably go to an earlier orientation session because by the end it tends to close. Do you have any tips for orientation registration? Yeah, absolutely. So, during orientation, it's best to not rely on the UTexas Wi-Fi because everyone's going to be using that, and so you want to use a different way to get in. So the best way to register for classes soonest and not to get like waitlisted for a certain section is going to be using your hotspot, your phone's mobile hotspot. And so I found this to be pretty effective. And actually, no, I used UTexas, so I regret doing that. But my friends who use their hotspots were able to get their classes much faster. And so, like during orientation, like on the very last day, when you're trying to register for classes, um, it's like 1,000 students trying to register at once, and so it overloads the UT Direct system, and it's very slow. Don't panic. This happens every year. This is how it's supposed to happen, but you might get timeouts. So when you're trying to register for classes at this time, it's really not a good idea to be the last one in. It's just best to use a hotspot to kind of speed up your connection. And this just has to do with like how UT's networking works. So I don't claim to be like an expert on this, but just from empirical evidence of what's worked and what hasn't, this tends to be a pretty good option. So yeah, just like, do I have any questions? Do I have any other tips? So I would say try planning out your classes early. I wouldn't think about the specific schedules necessarily until the very end, because, sorry, until until like orientation, because certain sections might close before you get to orientation, and it doesn't have anything to do with like them filling up. Even it could just be like the advisors decided to section you off into like a specific class. So just keep that in mind and have a lot of backup schedules and backup classes. You should probably having more than 10 schedules at least, if not more than that, just because of the number of combinations of, I guess not permutations, yeah, combinations of classes that and schedules that you'll have. So yeah, I really recommend having many backup options to ensure that your registration experience is as smooth as possible. Now, in terms of like what classes you'll want to register for, you can look at the degree plan online for your specific major. Usually, you'll be able to find like degree like planning like documents on the website of your college or of your department, but sometimes it might just be best to go to the UT catalog. So you can go to catalog.utexas.edu/undergraduate, and that'll, if you just navigate to where your class is, sorry, where your major is, you'll be able to see like what requirements are in place for your major, and maybe even how you can fulfill them. And so my recommendation personally is to build a 4-year plan before you start orientation, college, and whatnot. I'm more than happy to share you my 4-year plan. And so I've been creating this since I was admitted in 2018 or whatever, and I've just been continually updating this plan as I go along and change my classes and whatever to meet my ever-changing degree requirements, because I do change my mind, and also I also find like corrections to what I thought would be the plan, and thankfully it hasn't impacted graduation or anything like that, but yeah, it's just like, it's good to keep that all in mind. So rather than kind of just going with the flow and just be like, oh, this semester, I guess I'll take this. And then at the end of your 4 years, you're like, oh shoot, I still need these classes to graduate. So rather than doing that, it's just better to plan it all out. That way you get all your classes done at a reasonable pace. Because otherwise you graduate late, and that's not good. But yeah, in terms of like UT Austin in general, I can talk about our campus real quick because I know a lot of people want to visit the campus, but they cannot. So UT has has a pretty urban campus. So not as urban as like say NYU, but it's in the middle of Austin. So I'd say something like Harvard or MIT or something like that. So so our core campus, our original campus borders are bordered by 24th Street to the north, Speedway to the east, that's the yellow brick road that we have on campus, 21st Street to the south, and Guadalupe Street to the west. So Guadalupe Street is the kind of like the border between UT and the West Campus, and West Campus is just like a district that's immediately adjacent to campus, obviously on the west side of it, where we have a lot of students living and a lot of just like shops and whatever. It's a very densely packed place. Then you have just UT campus in general. You have several parts of it, but you can start with like the middle of campus, which I guess is considered to be the tower. So the tower can be seen from miles away from UT. It's very distinctive. The UT Tower is also actually the administration building. So from there you kind of just tell like, oh, where is everything relative to the tower, right? There are a lot of buildings with like around this tower, but I think the most relevant buildings to students are going to center around Speedway. Speedway is a north-south road that is east of the tower, but it's a very large pedestrian street. It's not, cars are not allowed on there except for like UT vehicles, and excuse me, I know the coronavirus. There's a lot of just important things that are on there. So for instance, like Jester is on the southeast corner of 21st and Speedway. The PCL, the Perry Castaneda Library, it's our largest library on campus, and it's where people go to study usually. It's open 24 hours a day during the weekdays and most of the time on the weekends. The PCL is on the southwest corner of 21st and 21st and Speedway. Then you got like the McCombs building in the northwest corner side, and the northeast corner side you have Gregory Gym, which is like our main student gym workout place. Further north up, you have like the CS building, the philosophy building, the biology and chemistry like buildings, I guess, economics, geosciences, etc. And then up north you have like math, physics, astronomy, and engineering and stuff like that. So Speedway is a I guess a kind of like a main thoroughfare for UT. Now, like the Honor Squad is going to lie on 24th Street, just north of it, near Guadalupe Street. We also have two student unions at UT. So a student union is like a building for students to kind of congregate into, like either study or like relax and have fun. So that we have a Texas Union, which is near 23rd Street in Guadalupe, and the SAC, which is actually on Speedway, just north of the Gregory Gym. So the SAC is, sorry, now it's known as the WCP. They just renamed it last year. So now it's the William T. Power Student Activity Center. It's kind of a boring place. They have like student government there and whatever, but it's new. So I guess the more interesting place would be the Union. It's a lot smaller than the SAC, not as open air. But the nice thing about the Union is that it has um, some recreational places underground, so you can go and bowl there, play play bowling. So like you're doing it in real life rather than on the Wii. Um, you can play like, you know, uh, what's it called, pool. You can play all sorts of things, honestly. Um, a lot of arcades, well, not arcades, but just like that kind of stuff, right? Pool table style, like oh, and you can play air hockey there, etc. So the Union Underground is like a nice little, I guess, place for the students to hang out in. Now, someone mentioned 6th Street here. I just want to clarify. If you do not condone underage drinking, then this is not the conversation for you. But if you're over 21, or if you don't care about that law, then you can go to 6th Street, which is a bar district for Austin. So actually, anyone can go to 6th Street. You don't have to be 21 to be on 6th Street, but it's just bars, and you go at like on like Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, etc. The reason why I say Thursday night is because a lot of UT students, especially like juniors and seniors, they don't have classes on Fridays, including me, because I just dropped a class that has class on Friday, and now I don't have any class on Fridays. So what you do on Fridays is you kind of just go and, sorry, yeah, Fridays is like part of your weekend, or you can just go on Thursday night and go to 6th Street. And so 6th Street is pretty popular with everybody. Now, other than that, if you want to have some like, you know, kosher fun, then definitely don't go to 6th Street. But there's a lot of restaurants around UT. You can also, like, if you have a car, you can drive around. You can bring around like your take the bus, or you know, just like go somewhere at West Campus with your friends. Um, yeah, that's why I'd recommend for just like not staying around on campus all the time, because you're going to get bored of it. How's the food in Austin? Well, it's kind of mixed, if I'll be honest, but it's both good and bad. So the food on campus is like barely decent. I don't think it's good. Um, Unless you pay for like a la carte stuff, but like your dining hall is not going to be good. It's going to be very, very mediocre. That being said, I've had worse dining hall food than at UT, so I wouldn't necessarily just uh, say it's a total loss. But yeah, don't expect too much from it. On the first few days, you're like, wow, this is like Golden Corral. And then you'll realize that Golden Corral is actually much better. So yeah. But the food in Austin is pretty good. Um, Austin is not the most culturally diverse place, but it's at least accepting. So you might have some accidentally misappropriated food in Austin. That might be if you like that, that might be fun. But yeah, a lot of like hipster style like American food is pretty common in Austin. We got a lot of food trucks here. Some popular like good places to go for students include like the Don's food truck. It's a Japanese food truck, very close to campus. Um, it's actually like a minute away from the Union. Just got to cross Quad, so pretty nice. Let's see. But yeah, there's a few options that are good around campus. Not the best though. I recommend just going off campus for that stuff. If you're looking for Asian food, then we have the one like kind of good Asian. No, the one like Asian place that we have near campus is, I guess, the Thai place. Or no, we have a Korean place, Thai place, and then the Indian place. So the Thai place is called Madam Mam's. It's a little far. We have a Korean place called Kokodak. I think there's also like this Korean place like just south of Kokodak in Space 2420, whatever the hell it's called. And then we have an Indian place called Teji's, but Teji's is just so bad. Yeah, it's decent food, but the employees in there are horrible, so I don't recommend going at all. Go to a good restaurant, decent restaurant outside of campus if you can at all, because the quality of the food around campus is usually not that good. But in Austin, it's pretty good, just in general. Um, let's see. So, how does declaring pre-med go hand in hand with majors that are not bio/chem related? Well, it really doesn't help unless you're meaning like you want to get access to the pre-health professions advising office, and that's just there to help you with like making sure you're on track to go into med school, taking the MCAT or like the PCAT or whatever health profession you're going into, etc. I guess not the PCAT, otherwise you'd be transferring to college of pharmacy. But yeah, like in general, it's like it's all right. Yeah. So declaring pre-med, it does not help you with getting into like a certain class. Screw that driver. But yeah, just make sure you're taking like all of your required MCAT requirements, and you should be set. But that's really all the pre-health does. I've heard they're not the best advising, but I guess they'll get the job done in terms of like telling you like, hey, you need to take like OChem or like biochem, stuff like that. I'm not even a pre-med, and I still know all these terms because everyone at UT talks about this stuff. So I guess, yeah. I guess by virtue of being around a lot of pre-meds, I kind of learned this stuff. Oh yeah, there's Loc Noodles and the poke place on Guantanamo K. Oh yeah, there are. Oh yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Although I wish there was like better like ethnic food in general. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, short story is, if you don't really care about what do you call it? If you don't really care about sorry, what am I saying? If you're pre-med, you don't really necessarily have to be a bio or chem major. You can just, as long as you are taking the class you're supposed to take, you'll be fine, and you won't be prohibited from doing that. So yeah. Anyway, let's move on to our next question. If you have orientation before AP scores come out, and how do you register for classes without knowing which credit you have classes you have credit for? Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, usually you don't really know what you have credit for necessarily, but you just assume it. So we're not, the advisors are not very anal about this, I guess. Yeah, all you gotta do is just make sure that all you have to do is make sure that you are you're coming in with like a good idea of how you did on those AP scores, and you can just tell your advisor like, hey, I took this, I took that, and we can just go off the assumption that you're going to have those scores by the time that July comes. In most cases, the prerequisites of the classes will not be enforced because of the students who do not have their AP scores in yet. But once you do, you need to be sure to claim them with UT, and that's all you need to do. But yeah, you'll be able to register for the classes for the most part, especially things like calculus and stuff like that. And most AP credit it's not even like a prerequisite for something. It's just like a requirement to get rid of before you graduate. So it shouldn't impact what you do, unless you're like on a really tight schedule. Then I guess if you failed an AP exam that you expected to pass, what you could do in that case is just change your schedule and re-register in August, and that's totally fine. You'll have another opportunity to revise your schedule during the ad drop period in August, and so I recommend using that if you need to do that. So yeah, and speaking of which, I should probably check if UT got my scores. If not, it'll be very sad. Now, if am I going to come back because of coronavirus? So I don't think I will be. I'm trying not to coming back. I'm not trying to come back as soon as possible. I'm trying to stay kind of safe here until I figure out how everything is. Yeah. So yeah. All right. Normally, let me go have some fun on the highway. Yeah, if anyone else has any questions about UT admissions and just like what to do after enrollment, let me know. So when you register for classes, is it urgent or good time to slow down and research about teachers and ask advisors? So that's a kind of complicated question because there's a lot of stuff you can do before going to orientation. So yeah, before you come to orientation, definitely don't just do nothing and wait for orientation and hope everything works out. That doesn't really usually play out very well. That car should not have done that. Okay, so typically what I would say is just try to research before coming to UT and you'll be set. So research all the classes that you'd want to take and perhaps like even what you want to take your first semester for sure. Plan out which courses you want, and then as far as like when you should be taking them, like when in your schedule you should be taking them, that might be a detail that you might want to save at latest until orientation. You can look at the schedule of classes online beginning in early April. You can do that with your UT EID. I'll post the link when the time comes online. But the way you can do research about your classes is by going to websites like Rate My Professors and using like the grade distribution tools like UT Catalyst. These are like some pretty good tools that UT offers. Sorry, not UT offers, but like just like some pretty good resources that have been like made available. And so you can use these tools to kind of figure out like, hey, like do I want to take this professor or that professor? Because each professor does the things differently, and in a nuanced way. So yeah. Now, during registration, you should have like the actual registration time, which is like on the third day of orientation. You should have an idea of what you're doing by that point, because like the whole goal is for you to prepare ahead of time, and so yeah. Um, Whoops. The whole goal is to prepare ahead of time, whether before orientation or just like the first day or two of orientation. After being with your advisor, you have like a night to plan out like what classes you want to register for. And then the day of, you're just gonna have to try to register for everything, but you have to cycle through like different classes because inevitably there are gonna be some classes that are taken up, especially if you're trying to go for like a small UGS class. So yeah, definitely like try your best to have as many backup plans as possible. During actual registration, though, um, you're going to be just cycling through the what do you call it? You're going to be cycling through all the like unique codes that your classes are associated with, just to see like which one actually works. So. So yeah, at the very end, oh dear, at the very end, I guess I would say like, yeah, maybe you'll be like, you should know what the classes are at the end, but in the beginning, you have time to figure it out. Is FRI very time intensive? I would say it probably depends on the stream, but I've heard it's pretty time intensive. You can't just do it. Yeah, so you need to set some time aside for FRI. You can't just like go and expect to like be like, oh, I have free time. Like, yeah, you still need to set some time aside to do it. I think it's like more time intensive in the spring semester than the fall semester, because in the spring you have to actually take like a 3 hour class. So yeah, it's all pretty intense. Yeah. Alrighty. So does anyone else have any other questions? Also, as a CSB student, I would not recommend doing FRI. Um, Actually, well, you could, but I wouldn't do it after freshman year because hmm, I can say for sure CSB after sophomore year is not going to be pretty. It's a pretty big nightmare. So yeah. Whoa, how do I get out of here? Ah, yeah. CSB is an intense program, and so um, personally, my experiences have been like, first semester is like all right, and then by the time you get to like me now, I'm like a second semester sophomore. Yeah, it's pretty rough. Very heavy workload, but that might be because I'm also in Turing. So I guess it's better if you're like in CSB rather than like BHP and Turing at the same time. But yeah, I think some people had some concerns about like, oh, CSB is like worse than BHP Turing because you're not in Turing anymore, and so like, oh, isn't that kind of skimping out? And the answer is no. Like, yeah, maybe you want a lot of rigor, but there's a certain point where you can't handle rigor anymore, and I can guarantee you, people in PHP Turing right now are struggling. So it doesn't mean like, oh, come on, I damaged my car again. Doesn't mean like you should, doesn't mean that we're trying to like give you like an inferior program. It's more like, hey, like we're doing what's right for everybody here. We're giving you BHP plus a reasonable honors CS education. So I definitely don't recommend people try to seek out anything harder than CSB. It's a very time-intensive program, but it's very worth it at the end. So I highly recommend if you want to do CSB, you just got to do it right. I think if you go on the CSB Instagram, you can check out like we have students who think like CS it's more CS intensive the first 2 years and then more PHP intensive the last 2 years. That is true. So might want to keep that in mind. Yeah. So you've heard that people email colleges telling them about their financial situation and seeking for more aid money. This is a smart thing to do. It is for other colleges. It's not for UT. You can do it for UT, but I don't think they will give you a lot of money because UT is a very big state college, and so it has a huge ton of bureaucracy. It's not as personal or subjective as like other colleges. So if your goal is to get more financial aid, then making an ultimatum to financial aid is not going to be your best bet. But instead, you could try appealing for more financial aid if you feel that is in your best interests, because at the end of the day, like they might have made a wrong determination, and so that's what the appeal serves to do. It serves to like let them kind of reevaluate your financial aid package, especially in light of like different situations that might come up. Is business hard? Sorry, is business honors harder to get into as a sophomore than an incoming freshman? Absolutely. There's about 120 spots open for about 240 people admitted to business honors as a freshman. About 120 of them accept, and there's only about 10 for sophomores. Because usually those who are accepted internally into BHP as a sophomore, all of them accept. When I realized you want to give it a try to the deadline, but then I can apply since it's my sophomore year. I don't think it is possible to apply right now. It's too late. They won't let you. But yeah, just know that if you want to apply as a sophomore to the business honors program, then you're going to have to be a very qualified candidate and meet a lot of I guess check a lot of the boxes they're looking for. And that includes just being very impressive in terms of like extracurriculars and whatever. And of course your classes, you should have a good GPA. The average GPA for internal transfers like a 3.9 something. 396 or 398. I forgot, something around there. My GPA is not even that high, so yeah, definitely a very ambitious goal. If that is your goal, it's somewhat doable, but it's just not as doable as doing it entering as a freshman. I think for sophomore transfers, they do not take into account your high school information, although I could be wrong about that. They mainly take into account your college experience, especially like your GPA and your classwork that's done in your freshman year. And the majority of sophomore admits that I know were admitted from the business school, so there might be like one or two who was admitted like from outside the business school. They added on back home as a double major. It's really difficult to do, so I wouldn't do it unless you're like unless you have just like this splendid application. It's very impressive. How many CSP people are admitted and accept? So last year we had about 50 people admitted and we had about 20 something accept. So we have 23, I think we had 23 students in the beginning of freshman year. So yeah, I think word on the street from the CSP themselves is that we anticipate the same amount of yield this year. So about half the people should be accepting. But yeah, I believe I saw about 50 something students. We wrote postcards and we called CSP students recently, or the past few weeks. And so we had a postcard writing session during the CSB meeting. That's the CSB Student Association meeting. And so I wasn't writing postcards because I was busy planning a class I had to teach because the professor was out. So I had to teach the class for him. But yeah, I was sitting in the back working with another TA of the class, and I just saw like I think 50 names and like addresses we had to write to and stuff like that, like where you were from. So pretty cool. So yeah, we got to see like, hey, like, you know, we got people from this city, we got people from that city. Oh shoot, I just took the wrong turn. But yeah, all in all, I think there's a healthy amount of people who accept CSB. It's a good sized community, honestly. I think if it were bigger, it would just be too much to handle. You have a good small tight knit community of like good friends and stuff like that. So yeah, overall pretty good community. Are there any organizations slash clubs slash activities that'll help a Macomb student stand out? Sure. If you want to go for the hard hitters, they're really hard to get into, but things like the University Securities Investment Team, USIT. What else? Texas UCF, undergraduate computational finance, stuff like that. Although in general, I feel like the admits to BHP, they're not necessarily the ones who are who kind of follow the cookie cutter formula. I feel like they're more like people who just stand out and are unique, and they kind of exude this energy of like impressiveness, if that makes any sense. At least that's the feeling I get from all the admins from software admins from PHP. So the main part of McCombs is we do have some challenging classes. It's not like they're all like a joke. I think the making connections aspect is slightly overblown, although it does help just in general with like finding a job. But I think the reason why they say like make connections is mainly to find you good jobs. To like recruit with, network with recruiters and stuff like that. And the only reason why we do that is because BBA students are kind of expected to like go use their BBA degree to find a job after graduation, as opposed to like be able to do anything, right? With my CS degree, I could go get a master's in CS, or I could go find a sweet job. So it's like either or. With my, with my business degree, like, well, there's only one thing you can do: go into business and get a job. And so I think that's why they have such a high emphasis on professionalism and communication and getting it, what do you call it, making connections, socializing. Yeah, we have like dedicated career coaches, not like one person assigned one, but like you'll be assigned a coach, a career coach, stuff like that. So yeah, like, that'll be pretty helpful. They'll help you with like, they'll guide you through like how to find a good job and all that stuff. So yeah. Well, all right. I think since there are not really any more questions, and the Q&A session was intended to be like an hour long, hopefully that answered everybody's questions. If you have any more questions, feel free to ask online. But yeah, thank you so much for coming out to this Q&A. Hopefully it was enjoyable. Thanks for watching me fail horribly at this silly video game I have in front of me. I haven't played this in so long, so yeah. Anyway, yeah, if you guys have any other questions, if you want to privately message me, that's also fine. But yeah, hopefully this was helpful, and yeah, I'll see you guys later.